Missionary Baptist Church. And of course, Pastor Keller, let me welcome you to the show during this final segment of the show, and to sort of remind you that, as you observed, that Dr. Baxter has sort of laid the foundation dealing with historical black colleges and the need for historical black colleges, and how the church was first identified as one of the main agents in terms of trying to deal with African education. Let's have you, Reverend Keller, from your own experiences, talk about some of the things that you have seen recently dealing with efforts to try to finance African American historical black institutions, and some of the things that you've done personally.
Well, as we all know, that when it comes to African American education, the church has been its foundation. When we look just locally here, when I think about Meharry, I think about its original site, which is located over on First and Chestnut Street in the, say, Hubbard area over there. When I think about Fisk, I think about the early days of following slavery and this kind of thing, and the idea of educating the newly emancipated Negro. And then when I think about Tennessee State, I'm always reminded of one of our outstanding citizens, Henry Allen Boyd, whose statement was that the state knew that they were not going to build but one institution for blacks in the next 100 years, and that it should be here in Nashville. And then when we think about American Baptist Bible College or American Baptist College, one has to go all the way over to the Vanderbilt area and think about the old Roger Williams Institute. Well, this is an outgrowth of the Roger Williams Institute, which was located over there in the Vanderbilt Peabody area. And so the church has always been our building block, and throughout history, it has been the church that has sustained education, because the first ones of our race to be educated was the clergy. And so that was a necessity, because they were the ones who were going to be leading the people. And then later on, as education sifted down, and as Dr. Baxter so beautifully outlined the difference between Du Bois and Booker T and all of them, but they all had the same goal in mind. From my own concept, I've often wondered what would have happened if Booker T and Du Bois had got together. And when we talk about the talented 10th performers, the talented 10th of educators, the talented 10th of all the various skills, suppose they had surfaced to the top, where would we be today as a people? And so we have to think about that.
You know, Reverend Keller, I know that at one time you were the leader of the Interdenominational Ministerial Association.
Right.
And at one time you came up with a program that would bring historical black colleges and churches to a closer alignment, and that these historical black colleges would be able to perhaps create a financial resource from these churches. Let's talk about your concept in reference to that, and how you might be able to apply that concept even today.
Even today, I'm proud to say that you were part of that. I like your terminology, the struggle, when we began this. It followed an incident that I was coming to lunch from the publishing house where I worked, and on the radio there was this statement that these 4 institutions locally would be penalized because of non-payment of some of our students. So we came up with the idea of the College Trust Fund. The College Trust Fund was designed to help a student at each institution. We have been very fortunate in doing that. We give a scholarship of $1,000 annually to some student at these 4 institutions. We're looking forward in the future to raise the amount of the scholarship. And not only that, if we follow the dream of raising $1 million as our goal suggests, then we will be able to give each one of these institutions, out of our investment portfolio, we'll be able to give each school $25,000 per annum. And this will go a long way in the educating of these students and falling through and be able possibly to give a whole 4-year scholarship to a student. And these are the kinds of things that we are going to have to do as a people to educate ourselves. I'm just a firm believer that daddy may have, mama may have, but God bless the child that has his own. And I live by that motto. Of course, I thank Lady Day for that wonderful song, but yet I have applied it to my life. And I think it will take us through if we will just learn to do that.
Do you think that there are the resources available to do what you were even suggesting there, Reverend Keller, that the African race has the kind of resources that are available?
We have more than enough. When we put it on the table, our economic impact to this nation is larger than that of the Canadian government. So if Canada can survive as a nation, we can survive as a people with the same amount of creative, economic power. But we've got to be willing to sit down, discuss it, look at it, and see where we can help ourselves. And we have more than enough.
You know, it seems that this whole argument or this whole discussion is almost a continuous discussion, because even during the time when you first put forth this idea, that we were still talking saying essentially the same thing then as we are saying now. Do you think that somehow that the time might have caught up with your idea, that people might be perhaps at this point ready to, considering all of the problems that many of these institutions are having throughout this nation, that the people might be ready now to, I think, in terms of listening to what you're outlining and what you're talking about?
I think so. America has not decided how much she wants to pay for education. And that's the problem. She's willing to pay for penal institutions, but she's not willing to pay for our sons and daughters to get a Harvard education. And that is the problem. So until America makes up her mind that education on the front end is better than prisons on the back end, then we're going to always have this dilemma. And so it's not about white education versus black education. It is American education that needs to be brought to the forefront. I have been asked, well, why do you need Tennessee State? Why do you need Fisk? Why do you need Howard and all of those? It is essentially a fact that we do a better job of educating our children than anybody else we know. We know what it takes. We know how to do the job. We do, naturally, all of the resources that we have in this country, they should be shared equally, because we have all fought for this country. We've died for this country. And each generation has fought his or her own war.
And so the struggle, in a real sense, I think, as the question that we raised with you earlier, the struggle continues. That there's no alternative save the fact that we have to simply support these institutions and have the resources if we wish to really live up not only to the commitment that we have to one another, but the commitment that we have to America. That it is in America's best interest that these institutions be
survived.
Speak to that. Speak what?
America cannot do without Fisk. America cannot do without Tennessee State. America cannot do without Meharry. America cannot do without American Baptist College, Morehouse, Spelman, Hampton. She cannot live or cannot survive without these institutions, because the other institutions cannot absorb that larger population in its educational culture. And so we need to help them, we need to work on it, and each ethnic group must be prepared to go. Another thing, Dr. Haynes, 3 things in my life that's important to me now. That is my God, my family, and these 4 institutions. They are my life.
Very good. And of course, Reverend Keller, let me thank you as well as Dr. JBaxter for coming by and at least shedding some light in terms of the role that these institutions can still play, as well as the role that they have played. And of course, let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week excuse me, for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.